I saw the president eat a man, not kill, not torture, eat, with his hands, with his teeth, like meat, and the worst part, he saw me too. I was 19 years old when it happened. I lived in a small town near the capital. My uncle worked at the state house as a cleaner. One day he got sick and asked me to go in his place. "Just mop the floors and keep your head down," he said. I didn't argue. We needed the money. That night I stayed behind to clean a broken wine glass in the main hall. Everyone else had left, or so I thought. Then I heard footsteps, heavy ones. They didn't sound like normal walking, more like dragging, like someone carrying a body. I hid behind a long curtain, holding my breath. A tall man walked in, dragging something behind him. He was wearing a black suit and dark glasses. It took me a second to realize it was the president. The one everyone feared, the one on every wall, on every note. He was dragging a man tied with rope. The man was still alive. The president dropped the body in front of the table and looked around. Then he smiled, wide and sharp. He pulled out a knife, not a small one, a big one like a machete. He didn't say a word, he just started cutting. I shut my eyes, but I could still hear it. The sound of skin tearing, the man screaming, then silence. The worst part was the chewing. Loud, wet, slow. I opened my eyes just a little. The president was eating the man, like meat. His hands were red, his face was red. He bit into the man's shoulder like it was chicken. I felt sick. My stomach turned. I tried not to move, not to breathe, but I think he sensed something. He stopped. He sniffed the air like a dog. Then he turned and looked straight at my curtain, straight at me. His eyes met mine. I was sure he couldn't see me, but he smiled again, slow, like he knew I was there. He didn't say anything. He just dragged the body away piece by piece into the dark hallway. His footsteps echoed, then silence again. I stayed behind the curtain for a long time. I couldn't move, my legs were weak, I wanted to run but I was frozen. When I finally left the room, the floor was clean. No blood, no glass, no body, like nothing ever happened. The next morning I didn't go back to the state house. I told my uncle I felt sick too. He didn't ask questions. That same day, a black car parked outside our home. A man in a gray suit came out. He handed me an envelope and left. Inside the envelope was a photo of me, standing behind the curtain. It was taken from above, from the ceiling maybe. And there was a note, "Keep your mouth shut, or we'll shut it for you." I started noticing things, news stories about missing people, protesters, journalists, even priests, always gone without a trace. No one talked about it, people just moved on. My mother told me not to ask questions. "This is how it's always been," she said. But it wasn't just fear, it was like a spell. Everyone acted normal, smiling, praising the president. Even when prices went up and food disappeared, even when soldiers beat people in the street, nobody fought back. It was like they forgot how. Some people knew. They didn't talk loud, only in whispers, in bars, in markets. They said the president was not human, that he came from the mountain, that he made a deal with something dark to stay in power. They said he needed to eat people, not just for hunger, but for strength, for magic. Every year he took more. Some said it started with his enemies, then his friends, then anyone. The more he ate, the stronger he got, and no one could stop him. My friend Kola didn't believe any of it. "You watch too many horror films," he said. But then his sister disappeared. She was a nurse. She worked at the State House clinic. One day she didn't come home. Kola went to the police. They told him to stop asking. Then he came to me. I didn't want to tell him what I saw, but I did. His face went pale, he didn't say a word. The next day he was gone too. I started hearing footsteps outside my window at night. Whispers, soft knocks on the wall, sometimes the sound of something scratching. I didn't sleep well. I kept a knife under my bed. I knew it wouldn't help, but it made me feel better. One night I saw a shadow in my room, tall, thin, it didn't move, it just stood there, watching. I blinked and it was gone. But on the floor there was mud, wet footprints, and a small piece of rope. The same kind that was used on the man in the hall. I packed my things and tried to leave the country. I told my family I got a scholarship abroad. It was a lie, but they believed me. I reached the airport and gave the officer my passport. He looked at it, then at me. He smiled, not a friendly smile, the same smile I saw that night. Then he stamped my passport and said, "Enjoy your trip, he'll be watching." I didn't get on the plane. I went back home and locked my door. The next day something strange happened. Every radio station played the same speech. It was the president's voice, calm, slow, too calm. He spoke about loyalty, about sacrifice, about feeding the roots of the nation. He didn't say it directly, but I knew what he meant. He ended the speech by saying, "We are all meat in the hands of fate. But some of us, we chew fate before it chews us." I turned off the radio and sat in silence. There was a school near my house, a public secondary school with loud students and old walls. One morning I walked past and saw that the whole school was gone, not empty, gone. The land was flat, just sand and grass. I asked the shopkeeper nearby. He looked at me like I was mad. "What school?" he said. "There's never been a school there." I knew he was lying. I used to play football on that field. Something was wrong with everyone. I was walking home late one evening when I saw him. A man in a soldier's uniform standing by the road. At first I thought he was just guarding something. But as I got closer I realized he had no face, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just smooth skin. I stopped walking. He turned his head toward me. I could feel him looking, even without eyes. Then he raised his hand and pointed behind me. I turned to look, and when I turned back, he was gone. One morning I found a letter under my pillow. My room was locked and no one else had the key. The letter was from Kola, but the writing was shaky, like it was written with a bleeding hand. He said he was alive, but trapped. He wrote about tunnels under the State House, about cages, about people who were fed things to change them. He ended with one line, "Don't trust anyone who smiles too much." I met a strange man at the black market. People called him the Prophet. He sold old radios and animal bones. He looked at me once and said, "You saw him, didn't you?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He said the president made a deal with a spirit from the forest long ago. In return for power, he had to feed the spirit, and then he became like the spirit. Always hungry, never full. "You think he's a man," the prophet said, "but a man has limits." I started seeing soldiers in strange places, not guarding banks or checkpoints, but in trees, on rooftops, in drains. They didn't talk, they just watched. If you looked too long, they smiled, the same wide, sharp smile. One even followed me into a public toilet. I locked myself in a stall and stayed there for almost an hour. When I came out, he was gone, but there was blood on the mirror. Someone had written, "Your eyes are open now, you must not blink." My mother started acting different. She was always quiet, but now she was too quiet. She stopped cooking, she stopped praying. One night I found her staring at the wall, whispering something I couldn't understand. When I touched her shoulder, she jumped and screamed. Then she looked at me with empty eyes and said, "He knows what you dream." I didn't sleep in that house again. That night I slept at a friend's house, but I had the worst dream of my life. I was in a big hall, candles everywhere, people in black suits sitting at a long table. The president was at the head, smiling. The food on the table wasn't food, it was people, heads, arms, hearts, and they were eating, laughing, licking their fingers. I tried to scream, but my mouth was sewn shut. The president raised a glass of blood and said, "To our next meal." I woke up choking. Scene 15, the pastor. I tried to tell someone, a pastor in town. He looked like someone who could help. I told him everything. He didn't interrupt. When I was done, he stood up, walked to the door and locked it. Then he looked at me and said, "You shouldn't have come here." I ran. I didn't even look back. The next day his church was closed. A neighbor told me the pastor had left the country, but I knew he didn't. I saw his shoes outside his house, full of blood. One day I got a phone call, no voice, just breathing. Then a text came in. It was a list. 10 names. Mine was number 7. I didn't recognize the others. I called one of the names. A man picked up. I asked if he had seen something strange. He didn't speak. Then I heard a scream. The line went dead. I tried calling again. The number was already disconnected. I deleted the message, but I knew it was too late. The list was real. There was a library in the city that had old books about history before the president. Some people said it held secrets. One day it caught fire, or that's what the news said. But no smoke, no fire trucks, just ash the next morning. I went to look. The building was still there, but inside was empty. The books were gone, even the shelves. A woman stood outside crying. Woman, VO. They took the truth. Now lies will eat us all. One morning I woke up and found something on my arm. A mark. It looked like a small tattoo, but I had never gotten one. It was a circle with a sharp line through it, like an eye. I tried to scrub it off. Nothing worked. It didn't hurt. But when I looked at it for too long, I heard whispering, voices I couldn't understand. I started wearing long sleeves all the time. I began hearing stories, from bus drivers, from market women. They all said the same thing. That around midnight the president walks the streets. Not with guards, not with a car, alone, looking. They say he walks barefoot. He leaves no footprints. If he stops in front of your door, you don't make it to morning. I started sleeping with music playing to drown the silence. But silence always finds a way. I passed a school one day. The kids were outside drawing with chalk. I stopped when I saw what they were drawing. All of them had drawn the same thing, a tall man with sharp teeth and long hands. He comes at night and eats the bad ones. I asked who told him that. Boy, VO. The man in the moon's mouth. I didn't ask anything else. Behind my grandmother's house there was a big tree. It had been there forever. One night I heard it scream, not the wind, a scream, like a person trapped inside. My grandmother didn't act surprised. Grandmother, VO. That's where they plant the ones who talk too much. The next morning I saw that the tree had red sap coming out. It looked exactly like blood. One evening the sky turned red, not sunset red, blood red. Birds flew in the wrong direction, dogs barked all night, even the air felt thick like smoke but with no fire. I went outside and saw people on their knees, praying, crying. He's feeding tonight, too much hunger, too much meat. I went back inside and locked every door. I got into a taxi to go to town. The driver was quiet. I told him I stopped, but he didn't answer. He just kept driving, past my stop, past town, into the bush. I asked him to stop, but he didn't. When I looked closely, I saw he had no eyes, just skin over the sockets. I jumped out while the car was moving. I hit the ground hard, rolled and ran. When I looked back, the car was gone. At the refugee center, I met a boy who spoke too clearly for his age. He said he escaped from the tunnels under the palace. He said they gave him food that made him forget his parents. But he remembered anyway. He said the president had long nails and sometimes barked like a dog. He said people in cages were fed pieces of themselves again and again until they stopped crying. Then they disappeared into smoke. A family in my area held a funeral, but nobody had died. I asked my neighbor why. Neighbor, VO. It was better to hold a fake funeral than wait for a real one. He skips the houses of the grieving, at least for a while. That night I saw the family dancing and singing loudly. The coffin was empty, but at midnight I heard them crying for real. Someone had taken their youngest son. One night I heard drums. Not normal drums. Slow. Deep. I looked outside and saw shadows moving down the road. Not people. Shadows of people. Tall, thin, some crawling, some twitching. No one else came outside. I wanted to record it, but my phone froze. When I blinked, they were gone. But in the morning, 10 houses were empty. No clothes, no furniture, no people, just silence. There was a day the whole country went silent. No cars, no birds, no babies crying. It was like someone pressed mute on the world. It lasted for 5 minutes. When the sound came back, everyone around me acted like nothing happened. I asked them, and they said I was imagining things, but I know what I felt. It wasn't silence, it was... A beggar in the market dropped his bag by mistake. Something inside it moved. I helped him pick it up. When I touched the bag, I heard a small voice say, I looked at the beggar. He smiled too wide. His eyes were wrong. I gave him back the bag and walked away. That night I had a dream of a man sewn into a bag, screaming with no mouth. A river near the village dried up overnight. No rain, no warning. People went to check. At the bottom of the riverbed, there were hundreds of bones. Human bones. Some of them looked fresh. Some were too small, like children. The elders told us to say nothing. Water carries memory, and now it has spoken. My bathroom mirror cracked on its own, right down the middle. I hadn't touched it. When I looked into it, I didn't see my face. I saw the president, smiling, wearing a crown made of fingernails. I covered the mirror with a cloth, but the next day it was clean again, no crack, like nothing had happened. But I knew what I saw. There's a drain near my street that kids used to play around. One day they stopped. I asked one boy why. He just said, "It laughs now." I didn't believe him. Until I walked past it one night. I heard it. A deep, slow laugh. Like something that used to be human. I walked faster, but it followed me all the way home. Just the sound. The moon turned red for 3 nights. The news didn't say anything. People acted like it was normal. But it wasn't. On the 3rd night I saw figures dancing on the roof of the state radio building. They weren't people. Too tall. Too thin. Moving like smoke. One of them pointed at me from far away. I didn't go out at night again after that. I took a sick neighbor to the hospital. When we got there, it was empty. No nurses, no doctors, beds untouched. But everything was clean. Too clean. Like it had just been wiped. We waited an hour, no one came. We heard a baby crying from the 2nd floor. We didn't go check, we left. When we came back the next day, the building was gone, just flat land and gravel. I saw a stray dog sitting in front of my gate. It just stared at me. Didn't bark, didn't move. I tried to chase it away, it didn't go. Dog, Vio. He knows you're awake now. Narrator Vo. The voice wasn't a dog's, it was a man's. Deep, old. I went inside and locked every door. I woke up in the middle of the night. I felt something behind me. I lived alone. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then I heard it breathing. Slow. Calm. I finally turned around. There was no one there. But my bedsheet was wet. Like someone had been lying there for hours. On the wall above the bed, scratched into the paint, were the words. Government workers started getting stamps on their hands. Black marks. Looked like ink, but it didn't wash off. They stopped talking to neighbors. Stopped laughing. Just moved like machines. One man quit and tried to run. They found him the next morning, nailed to a billboard with his mouth sewn shut. The stamp was still glowing. There's a wall in the city near the old bus park. It used to be plain, just cracked concrete. One day, people saw eyes on it, dozens of them, open and watching. They blinked when no one touched them. Someone tried to paint over them. The next morning his house was filled with flies and no one ever saw him again. The wall is still there, still watching. My cousin wanted to escape the country. He got a fake passport. The moment he touched it, he dropped it and said it whispered his real name. He burned it the same night, but before the fire died he screamed and dropped to the floor. His ears were bleeding. The doctor said it was pressure. I know it wasn't pressure, it was a warning. Once a year, on the same date, there's a silent march. No one announces it, no posters, no radio talk. Just a line of people in black walking through the city at 3 a.m., faces covered, feet bare. If you watch them from your window, they don't stop. But if you go outside or try to take a photo, one of them turns to you. No one knows what happens after that because no one comes back. There's a black van that shows up at night. No license plate, no driver. It parks on empty roads and waits. It never picks anyone. But if you walk past it, the engine starts on its own. People say if you ever hear your name come from the van, you should run, or kneel. No in between, but never answer it. Never say yes? One morning, all the radios played the same song, low drums, a voice humming, no words, just a hum that made your teeth itch. Even phones started playing it. No one could turn it off. It lasted 10 minutes. People on the street froze like statues. After it ended, 5 of my neighbors were never the same. They only speak in numbers now. One of them writes clocks on the walls. A new stall opened at the city market. Sold meat very cheap. Too cheap. No one knew what kind of meat it was, but it smelled sweet. People bought it fast, ate it even faster. A week later, those who ate it started scratching their skin like it was too small. One woman peeled her own arm with a spoon. Woman, VO, I see now, I see where he lives. A new church opened in the village. The pastor never blinked. His eyes were wide, always wet, always staring. His sermons were just laughter and humming. People still went. They said they felt clean after. But those people started acting strange, quiet, joyful, but empty. One day the church was gone. No building, no chairs, no pastor, just a hole in the ground. There's a woman that walks the streets at night, tall, face covered in white powder. But when she moves, you can hear her bones grind. She has no knees, but she walks fast. Too fast. If she stops in front of your house, don't open the door, not even to peek. If she knocks, pray she doesn't say your name. If she does, just start digging. You'll need a hole. Some say the president is dead. That what we see is a copy, a thing that wears his skin. He speaks like him, walks like him, but something's missing, a warmth, a soul. Once, on live TV, the screen glitched. His eyes turned black for half a second, then normal again. The camera crew that filmed that episode, all gone, vanished after the broadcast. In a dry village, kids used to play near the old well. One day, one boy said he saw eyes at the bottom. Everyone laughed. But when he didn't come home, the village checked. The well was full again, but not with water, with a thick black liquid and bubbles like something was breathing underneath. They covered the well with metal, but sometimes at night it whispers names. One afternoon the sky turned yellow, not from the sun, just the air itself. Hot, but not like fire, like hate. People ran inside, but some didn't make it. Those who stayed outside stood still. Just stood, staring at the sky. When the color faded, they were all blind. All of them. And they kept saying the same word, arrival. A black goat showed up at the president's rally. No one knew where it came from. It walked straight through the crowd. No one stopped it, not even the soldiers. It climbed the stage and stared at the president. Then it dropped dead. Just like that. No one clapped. No one spoke. The president didn't blink, but his shadow moved by itself. There's a train that passes through the capital once a month. But there's no station for it. It just rolls by slowly, car after car. It takes 2 hours to pass completely. Windows covered, doors locked. One man said he saw faces in the windows, screaming but silent. He followed the train once. Now he speaks in riddles and stares at the ceiling all day. Someone slipped a small blue paper under my door, no writing on it, just soft, like skin. I picked it up and felt dizzy right away. My ears rang, my eyes teared up. I burned it without reading anything. But I keep seeing the color in my dreams, a color that doesn't exist when I'm awake, but it feels like it's waiting for me. There was a boy in our town who stopped blinking at age 9. The doctor said his eyes were drying out, but they never did, and he never cried. He only watched people, quiet, still. One day he looked at his mother and said, "He's inside you now." Then he dropped dead. No wounds, just gone. The mother disappeared a week later. A long crack appeared on the ground outside the State House. No one knew how it got there. No earthquake, no rain. Just a black scar in the dirt, about 30 feet long. People tried to fill it, nothing worked, cement disappeared, dirt collapsed. Some say if you put your ear to the crack you can hear drums and screaming. One night all the radios picked up a strange station. It spoke only numbers. Female voice, calm, repeating long strings of digits, sometimes in whispers. People who listened too long had nosebleeds. Some wrote down the numbers, filled books with them. When the station stopped, the listeners didn't. They just kept whispering the numbers to themselves until they vanished. There's one traffic officer in the Capitol who never stops smiling. Never. Not even in the rain or heat. He doesn't blink, doesn't drink water, just waves cars along. A taxi driver hit him once, swore the body rolled under the car. But when he got out, the smiling officer was already standing. He waved him on. The driver drove off and never came back. Children playing in a field screamed one evening. They saw a face floating in the air above the grass. Just a face. No body, no sound. It watched them for 10 minutes. One child tried to run. She dropped and started seizing. When she woke up, she said the face showed her what lives beneath the president. She wouldn't talk after that, just hummed. At the top of the president's mansion, a new flag was raised. Black and red, no symbols, just cloth. But when the sun hits it just right, it drips something that looks like blood. They say anyone who touches the cloth starts coughing up feathers. One guard did. He tore out his own tongue and ran into the woods. No one ever found him. The old clock tower downtown stopped working years ago, but one night, it started ticking again. Loud, deep, like it was alive. The sound shook the windows for blocks. But the hands didn't move. People who lived nearby started hearing voices in their sleep, whispers telling them to go beneath the tower. Some listened. They left their beds and never returned. There was a school built near the river. One morning it was just gone. Not washed away, not burned, gone. No rubble, no bodies, just a wet square of land where it used to be. Only one boy was found, sitting by the edge of the empty space, humming. His eyes were all black. He whispered he needed quiet. Then he bit his own tongue and passed out. A well-known preacher said he had a message for the nation. People filled the church, cameras were rolling, but when he stepped on the pulpit, he didn't speak. He just opened his mouth and stood still. 5 minutes passed, then 10, people began crying, shaking, collapsing. They said they heard something only for them. The preacher smiled and vanished on the spot. Rain doesn't fall the same way anymore. It's heavy, too heavy, like it wants to bury things. During one of those rains, I saw a man with a silver umbrella walk through a flooded street. His clothes didn't get wet, his feet didn't touch the water, and everywhere he passed, the plants died. He looked at me once. My left hand went numb for a week. When the president renewed his power for the 5th time, the stadium was full. Cameras showed crowds, flags, cheering, but those of us near the gates saw nothing. Empty stands. Silence. Later, footage showed faces we didn't recognize. Ghosts, maybe, or something worse. The air smelled of burned paper. People in the crowd, they never left the stadium, not through any known gate. Farmers in the east said they saw a red light blinking from the hills at night. Not lightning, not a tower. It pulsed slow like a heartbeat. One farmer followed it. His wife found his clothes folded neatly by the fence. No blood, no footprints, just one word scratched into the ground with a sharp stone. Obey. Our main river used to be calm. People washed clothes, fetched water. But after a certain speech the president gave, the river changed. It started whispering. Soft at first, then louder. A girl said the river called her name. She jumped in and vanished. No splash, no ripples. The river just swallowed her like breath. Now no one goes near it after dark. There's a bus that shows up at night on the outskirts of the city. It looks old, yellowed, and cracked, but it stops like it's waiting for someone. Door opens, engine running. Some say they saw their dead relatives on board, waving. A man once entered and the door closed. The bus drove off with no one in the driver's seat. That man hasn't been seen since. One village said rain came up from the ground, not down from the sky. It soaked feet first, then legs, then the whole body. But the sky stayed dry. The people panicked. 3 of them ran. 1 drowned in dry air. Another floated up and never came back down. The last one laughed while pointing west and said, "He's growing." Then she melted into mud. In the State House, there's a room with no windows and 1 door. They call it Room 0. No one stays inside for more than a few minutes. Cameras don't work in there. People say the room listens. It hums. It shifts shape when no one watches. One minister went in for a meeting and came out with his mouth sewn shut. No thread, just skin. Still sealed. One day the president visited a hospital. Cameras caught something strange. His shadow wasn't moving right. When he raised his hand, the shadow didn't follow. It stayed still for a second too long. Then it smiled, the shadow. People thought it was a glitch. But nurses at the hospital say mirrors broke in every hallway he passed. One nurse had a seizure after seeing his reflection. Farmers started hearing screams from the ground. Not animals, human screams. Short, sharp, like someone buried alive. They tried digging, but the dirt just refilled itself after every shovel. One farmer kept digging. His hair turned white overnight. He said he saw eyes in the soil. Eyes with no lids, watching from every direction. He left his farm the next morning, and never spoke again. In a small village, 1 tree bent toward the State House. Only that 1 tree. Slowly, unnaturally. Its branches pointed like fingers. At night, it creaked like someone whispering. They tried cutting it down, but the axe bounced off. A chainsaw stopped working the moment it touched the bark. Eventually, they burned it, but it screamed. The fire didn't crackle, it... A girl in the north started speaking in 2 voices at once. One was her own, the other was deep, dry, like old wind. She said things no one understood. Codes, names, dates. Her parents took her to priests and doctors. Nothing helped. One day she looked straight into the camera of a news team and said, "He will sit forever, even after your bones." Then she vanished into smoke. A coffin was delivered to a village chief. No one ordered it. Just a black box on his doorstep. He opened it and screamed. The bottom wasn't there. Just a deep hole that never ended. He dropped a rock in it, never heard it land. The chief went missing the next day. People say he jumped in, others say something pulled him. The coffin is still there, untouched. A house near the capital caught fire. But the flames were cold. They didn't spread, they just stood still, blue and frozen like ice. The people inside didn't burn. They just stopped moving. When firemen arrived, they saw the family stuck like statues. Eyes open, mouths wide. One child had written something on the wall in ash. He needs time. Then the ash turned to bone dust. At a funeral for a soldier, his phone started ringing inside the coffin. People gasped. The pastor fainted. They dug it up quickly. The phone was there, off, no battery, cold as stone. The screen said, "1 missed call unknown." When they checked the number, it wasn't from this country. It wasn't from any country. It had symbols, not digits. One of the president's closest ministers started looking younger. His beard disappeared. his wrinkles smoothed. He looked 30 years younger in a month, but he spoke less and less. Then one day, he only stared, like a baby, drooling, rocking. They said his mind had gone back too, like time was eating him in reverse. A mountain near the border started glowing at night. People thought it was lightning. But then, the light blinked. Two massive glows, like eyes, watching, moving. Shepherds say the goats won't go near it. Birds fly around it. One brave man climbed it with a torch. His last radio message. They're awake now. That was the last anyone heard from him. Someone leaked a video. It showed the president talking to the president. Same face, same voice. But one smiled too much. The other never blinked. No one knows which is real. The government called it fake. But since then, the president's been acting strange. He waves with the wrong hand, speaks slower, and when he laughs it sounds hollow. One morning, a small city in the West was gone. Not destroyed, just missing from maps, signs, and even memories. People who lived there still existed, but they had no home, no address. When you asked them where they were from, their mouths opened, but no sound came out. One man tried to draw a map. His hands locked up, his tongue turned black. He hasn't moved since. A new national anthem was played for the president's birthday. It had no words, just a deep, slow rhythm. At first people clapped, then some started bleeding from their noses, some collapsed. Radio stations stopped playing it, but anyone who heard even a piece of it had strange dreams, about a throne made of bones, and a man with no face humming in the dark. Workers doing repairs under the Parliament building found a hidden room. Inside were hundreds of carvings on the walls, eyes. Big, small, wide open, all staring. One worker shined a light on them. They blinked, not all at once, one at a time. He screamed, ran, and never came back. The room has been sealed, but we all know it's still there. Watching. A lake near the south started bubbling every night. Not warm, boiling. Fish floated up, cooked. Trees around it wilted. No animals came close, no insects either. One man tried to film it. His camera melted in his hands. He started shouting, "He sleeps beneath it. He's waiting." Then he jumped into the lake and vanished in steam. In a crowded market, a man walked around without a face. No eyes, nose or mouth, just smooth skin. People screamed, but no one touched him. He kept walking, calm, like he belonged there. He left a trail of ash behind him. One boy picked it up, curious. That boy now speaks in riddles and draws circles over and over again. His mother says he no longer sleeps. A family built a wall to block off a strange patch of land behind their house. Every morning the wall had moved, closer to the house, by 2 inches, then 3. One day, it touched their back door. That night, the family vanished. Only the wall remained. A message was scratched into it: "You can't hide from him." At a political rally, the cameras showed the crowd clapping and cheering. But when they zoomed in, none of the people had faces, just blank, smooth skin. The news said it was a broadcast error, but those who were there said they felt like they were dreaming. One man tried to speak, but his jaw dislocated when he said the president's name. There's a train that leaves the capital every Friday at midnight. But no one sees it arrive anywhere. No station receives it, no workers report it. Some say passengers on that train are selected. Some say you never buy a ticket. Your name just appears. And if it does, you board. You don't ask questions, you don't come back. Trees started growing through the roads, fast, overnight, roots cracking the concrete, branches wrapping around poles. People tried cutting them, but the wood bled. One woman swore she saw a face in the bark. It whispered, "He is not done." That night, her entire house was swallowed by vines. Now that street is gone, just forest, no path out. A hacker broke into old military files, found something strange. A document said the president died in a war 20 years ago. The body was identified, buried, but someone with his exact face showed up a year later, with no past, just power. The hacker tried to share it online. His computer burst into flames. His last email said, "That is not his name." One night the moon didn't rise. People thought it was just a cloud, but it didn't come back. The sky stayed black, no stars, no light, just the dark, deep and heavy. Everyone woke up confused. No one could remember what happened in the night, but those who stayed awake said they saw the sky move like something huge was passing, a shadow bigger than the city. My phone rang at 3 a.m. The number was unlisted. I picked it up, and the voice on the other end whispered, "We're already inside." I didn't know who it was, but my skin felt cold. I ran outside. People were already staring at the sky, waiting for something. But no one knew what. The wind shifted. It carried a message. "He's calling." A group of workers digging a new subway line found a hidden tunnel. It wasn't on any map. The walls were covered in symbols, markings that moved when you looked away. They went inside. Hours later, a few made it out. They said the tunnel led them somewhere else. Somewhere deep. They couldn't describe it. Their eyes didn't focus anymore. They just stared and shook. The president invited foreign leaders to a grand feast. Food was rich, the wine flowed, the music played. But as the night went on, no one could remember who was sitting next to them. One man caught a glimpse of the president. He wasn't eating, just staring. And when he looked into his eyes, he swore he saw nothing, no soul, just black, empty space. The river turned red one morning, not from rain, not from anything natural, it just changed. The color spread through the water, thick and dark. The fish floated, still as stone. People who tried touching it went mad, screaming for hours, then collapsing in the dirt. One man kept repeating, "He drinks, then he sleeps." No one knows what he meant. He never woke up. A strange black horse appeared near the outskirts of the city. It wasn't from any farm, it never ate, never drank. It just stood there, in the same spot, every night, always staring at the city. Some said it was a messenger, others said it was a warning. But one night, it ran into the city, and that's when the lights went out. The whole city, black for hours. No one saw the horse again. The government tried to stop the chaos by broadcasting a message. They said everything was fine. But in the middle of the broadcast, the screen froze. A new face appeared. Not the president's face, not anyone's. It was a face without eyes, just smooth skin, a smile that didn't move. The voice said, "This is the last." Nothing more. Then the screen went black. No one has heard from them since. Weeks passed without the moon. People were losing their minds. The sky seemed to shift at random. But then, one night, the moon returned. But it was different. It was red, not like an eclipse. It stayed red, pulsing. People watched it all night. Some said they saw shapes moving inside it, others heard voices. But when they spoke of it, their tongues turned to ash. An old man, once a scholar, sat in the town square for hours every day, staring at the horizon. He'd seen it all, he knew the truth. His eyes never blinked. One day, someone asked him what was happening. He whispered, "It's his time." Then he vanished. Gone. Nothing left but a pile of dust, and his last book opened to a page that read, "And he will rise." It's over now. People are gone. The land is still, empty. The president, if he was ever real, hasn't been seen for days. The streets are silent, no whispers in the wind, no eyes watching. And the moon? It's still red. But now, it's not alone. There are more. Thousands. Hanging in the sky like a warning, like they're waiting for something. Waiting for him. No one can leave anymore. No one can run. Because whatever is coming, it's already here.